afternoon, distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends. It's my honor to moderate this pivotal session titled The Voice of Industry, Medical Devices Associations and Their Strategies. We are joined by an exceptional panel of leaders from key medical device associations across Africa. These organizations play a vital role in shaping regulatory frameworks, advocating for industry needs, and driving innovation in healthcare. As Africa continues to evolve its regulatory landscape, the voice of the industry is more important than ever. This session will explore how associations are navigating challenges, influencing policy, and collaborating with regulators to ensure safe, effective, and accessible medical technologies. I know it's been a long day, so we'll keep this session sharp and focused. Let's dive in and hear directly from those at the forefront of this information. And we will start with the presentation by Dr. Rana Sharhoub. Dr. Rana is the Regulatory Affairs Director at MECOMED, the Medical Device Association in Middle East and Africa. Dr. Rana is also the co-chairing the GMTA Africa Working Group and has been actively involved in the MDRC program for Africa. Rana has also been engaged as a speaker and subject matter expert in several international and regional forums in Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Middle East on several topics at the good regulatory practices, reliance principles, and regulatory environment in the Middle East region. Please welcome Rana on stage.
Good afternoon, everyone. It gives me great pleasure to join yet another edition and another year of the AfriSummit and to connect with all of you. As Fatma mentioned, we recognize this as being the last session of the day, so we're trying to make it smooth and quick. So I was asked to speak about MECOMED. So this is not an easy task to summarize in 10 to 20 minutes, but I'll do my best. So for MECOMED, we are the MedTech Association covering Middle East and Africa region. We cover the medical technology. By MedTech, we mean medical devices, in vitro diagnostics, and imaging. MECOMED has been established in 2009, and we are based in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, and covering the region. What we work on, our mission is eventually to bring together all the different stakeholders in order to improve the introduction of safe and effective medical technology to the patient in our region. We collaborate closely with the different MedTech stakeholders, whether the other MedTech associations, also healthcare providers, regulatory authorities, always to improve patient outcomes. Our association is a board member of the GMTA, that is the Global Medical Technology Alliance, that has on board all the other associations like AdvaMed, MedTech Europe, APEC-Med, SAMED, and other as well associations. Our members, MECOMED started with 4 member companies, and we're happy to have on board now over 70 member companies. So we have our members who are the multinational manufacturers that represent around 85% of the global market of medical technology. And also we have our associate members who are our distributors and partners, because we operate mostly in indirect markets in many of the countries in Middle East and Africa region. And we also have our associate partners as the local associations in respective countries with whom we collaborate closely. So how we are organized, MECOMED is not only regulatory, even though I represent the regulatory committee, but MECOMED focus around several committees. We have the regulatory, we also have our market access, our compliance that focus on ethical business practice and eventually the good business, if we can name it this way. Our digital health committee that has become an imminent need and that we're working to boost more and more. Our HR group, legal working group that govern all our interaction, and our upcoming ESG, which is the sustainability committee, because we know as well this is upcoming need. Our networks, we have different networks, the Leaders Network, also we have our Women in MedTech and our Distributors Network, and we have our Saudi chapter. So what defines the Middle East and Africa region as a market and as a regulatory environment? Actually, the MEA market is very diverse, very dynamic. I would like to call it, it's a market that is united in diversity. So because eventually we have around 70 countries across the whole Middle East and Africa. We have the healthcare expenditure ranging from the lowest to the highest GDP per capita, from $50 all the way to $1,700 per capita. So this is how diverse our market is, and our country healthcare expenditure as well, from 3% to 10%. When it comes to regulatory, this eventually would definitely reflect on the regulatory framework that we have. The key pillars of our regulatory framework is it's a very dynamic market. There are always emerging regulations happening. Just to give you an idea, over the last 5 years, we have shared with our members around 600 regulatory circulars or memos or guidance documents or federal decree. So this is how dynamic the region is and how it's hard to keep abreast of all the changes happening. It's a dynamic, it used to be an open market. Like 10 years ago, in most of the countries, you would just need a CE certificate or a US FDA approval and you're free to go. However, it's not the case anymore. We are seeing more and more countries like enforcing their existing regulations or putting import controls or even establishing a new regulatory framework that we need to abide with. Hence the challenges that we are facing. While most of these regulations are based on the GHGF, IMDRF regulation, but we are also seeing specific in-country requirements that are challenging to meet when we talk about such a diverse region. Initially, the requirement, our main challenges was that initially the requirements were mostly pharma-driven. So in many cases, we couldn't meet these requirements, not because we don't have the documentation, but because the documentation requested was not relevant for MedTech. However, now we're seeing more and more shifting into a MedTech perspective, especially that, as I always say it, that currently with the, let's say, surge of digital health technologies, we are 85% closer to ICT, which is the information communication technology, 15% closer to pharma. So this is how hard it's for us to request from us pharma documentation. What we can always as well, we need to keep an eye on is the impact of the international changes on the local submissions and local registration. Because we do rely on CE mark, on US FDA. Like if the EU is let's say, a regulation currently in transition, we need to assess the impact and see how this would impact our dossier and our files. So we cannot work in silos. There's also a growing focus on post-market surveillance, reporting of vigilance, adverse events, and digitization, traceability. So a lot is happening on the regulatory front. For this, we try to, let's say, cater to all these changes happening by first being informed. That's why via our network, I'm happy to share that we have over 360 regulatory affairs professionals as part of our regulatory committee. So it's years and years of regulatory expertise, which is really very important in a region where in most cases it's not black nor white, it's almost gray. So having this expertise, it's very important. So we always do have the collaboration and the culture of sharing best practice, sharing regulatory intelligence and regulatory updates in order to keep up to date with what's happening. Also anticipate the change by building capacity. The nowadays term is not anymore capacity building, it's capacity maintenance. Because if we stop getting better, we stop being good. So we need to maintain our education, whether internally for our own member companies, but also externally by engaging in trainings with the regulatory authorities. And also to respond with confidence, we need to engage with the different stakeholders, the MedTech associations as well, and have a solid dashboard of what's happening in the region. These are our working groups for the year 2025 that we focused on. We had eventually the EIFU working group that Miret as well was chairing and that she presented on, where we advocated for the EIFU acceptance in the region that is becoming an imminent need. Then we have the UDI working group as well to harmonize the UDI requirements in the region. Reliance working group, it's high on the agenda internationally and regionally as well. Our data bank update to keep a dashboard of what's happening in the region and the requirements across the different countries. Our IVDR and MDR working group, where we focus on the impact of the EU regulation on our submission. Our AI regulation working group that works closely with the Digital Health Committee, and a great initiative I'm gonna talk later on, the distributors training working group that we engaged in. So how we drive impact through collaboration. Okay, so how we drive impact through collaboration. MECOMED is an official liaison member of GHWP, which is the Global Harmonization Working Party. And this is really a great milestone that we have achieved by being recognized as a liaison member and have the opportunity to work closely with the regulators as well that are part of GHWP in order to advance regulatory convergence and harmonization. Just to let you know how much the region is important, the Middle East and Africa, we have been asked to be part of the first capacity building under the GHWP Training Academy, and we've gone all the way to China to present on the MEA regulatory environment and what does it take to ship the products into the MEA region, because this is really a very interesting market. Then global engagement, it's a key to amplify our voice. And I do believe in the value and in the need to export the voice of our region to the international platforms. We had the opportunity of participating in several editions of the MedTech forums organized by MedTech Europe. And I was happy to be on the same panel with a representative from the EU Commission, while she was really interested to see what's the impact of the MDR in international market that recognize eventually the CE mark. She has mentioned, I still remember, that 111 countries rely on the CE mark in a way or form. So I stated to her that more than half of these countries are in the MEA region. So that's really how important it is to raise our voice in international forums and platforms, whether as well in the Global Access in Ireland. We work closely with the ABHI in the UK, with MedTech Europe. We have an ongoing collaboration and working group. And lately, 2 weeks ago, we were in the Life Science Academy in Budapest, also talking about the impact of MDR on the region. Another engagement that is crucial for us is the engagement in Africa. Under the GMTA as well, MECOMED has led the initiative of having a paper about the MDSAP, which is the Medical Device Single Audit Program, and to have this paper under the GMTA. The scan, if you want to scan the paper, I know we have a session on the MDSAP tomorrow, so we'll not take much on this, but we were happy to let's say, to lead this initiative under the GMTA because we believe in value of the collaboration and the harmonization. MECOMED as well is co-chairing the GMTA Africa Working Group. Actually, this idea was proposed to have an Africa dedicated working group under the GMTA, which is having the international association like the US, the Europe, also recognizing the importance of Africa and how to join forces together in order to support the African regulatory convergence. And also we are part of the advisory board of the US Africa Health Regulatory Forum. That is an initiative by the Corporate Council on Africa to promote international harmonization and access to safe and effective medical technology. We're also part of the MDRC, as Fatma mentioned, the Medical Device Regulatory Convergence Forum, where we collaborated with the USTDA for capacity buildings for Africa. For Africa as well, one hand cannot clap. We need all of us to tango together, as Khani mentioned. So we need really to dance to the beat. So we're happy to collaborate with the different local associations in Africa, Summit, SALDA, MEDAC, and the Nigerian Association in order to join forces together. So what are our initiatives for 2025, our story? We started this year strong with a great MedTech forum that we organized in collaboration with RAPS. This was really a great initiative where we co-hosted this forum, and we had together over 135 global regulators, health authorities, all of us uniting under, let's say, advancing the regulatory education, regulatory knowledge, and the collaboration among the stakeholders. Another flagship initiative for 2025 that I chose to include in my deck for today is the distributor training that we did. We believe in the value of our local distributors, or who are actually our driving force on ground in many of the indirect markets where we operate. So we worked 6 months to build a training curriculum for our distributors with the support of eventually the distributor working group, and we delivered 2 sessions. We had over 400 different distributors attending this session, where we provided, let's say, updates on the EU and US regulatory framework, on good regulatory practice, QMS, the MEA framework, and the digital transformation. This is part of our commitment to work hand in hand with our local partners who are not only, let's say, our representative on ground, but they are also our voice with the authority there. Sorry for not adhering to the color of the format of the slide for this one, but I believe women is pink, and having at least within our regulatory affairs committee, most of our members, regulatory people being women, I believe we deserve a slide of empowerment and let's say acknowledgement for the role women play. So we have our Women in MedTech network, where we have started from within, where we have only 2 women out of 9 people on our board members. So we decided to, let's say, raise the bar higher and have at least more representation of female in leadership roles, which is really very important, because we know on the execution level it's happening, so we need it more on the leadership role. So we're committed to this. We're doing, let's say, mentorship program and collaboration in order to empower women in the medtech sector. Another initiative I would like to take you through, the IVDR initiative. It has built on the successful MDR initiative that we did in 2023. So in 2025, we did a similar initiative by assessing the impact of the IVDR in our region. We divided into several groups: the KSA, Gulf, Levant and Pakistan, Egypt, North Africa, French-speaking, and Sub-Saharan Africa, where we had a dashboard in order to assess what are the changes on the administrative and labeling, technical documentation, supply chain, notified bodies, certificates, etc., where we need to do a notification, where we need to do a resubmission, where we just need to inform the authority. So we had a full gap assessment of the impact that IVDR has on our region. Then the second part, we did a paper on the IVDR amendment. So this paper was meant to raise awareness about the IVDR amendment, which IVDs are in scope, what are the new deadlines, because it was a tricky transition, I would say staggered and conditional transition, and what are the documents that are proposed by the EU Commission to confirm that the product meets the transition and the conditions and documentation. So our message was really to align the requirements from the authorities in the region with what has been proposed by the EU Commission to avoid having, let's say, any shortage or any supply chain disruption. And finally, we complemented this initiative with a webinar that we did in collaboration with MedTech Europe. We had a session on the EUDAMED, that is the European database or platform that provides access to a lot of information already mentioned by Miret in the earlier session, and also about the IVDR amendment. This webinar was attended by 60 people from 15 different national regulatory authorities. So this shows another time as well the need really to raise awareness and for capacity building and engagement to let everyone know what's happening in order to be able to address any challenges proactively. Our key publications for this year as well, I have included some of our papers. We had our paper on the EIFU. This paper as well is being currently updated, so be on the lookout for the revised version where we reflect the changes that have been happening, but also that provides eventually the updates on the EIFU. Also, we have a paper about the UDI recommendation. We believe in a convergent, in an approach that has proper transition timelines, in an approach that is aligned with IMDRF requirement, and that's why we have put this industry paper on this particular topic. Another paper as well, AI in healthcare, because we need to be there for AI as well. So the purpose of this paper is eventually to have the impact of AI and to highlight the critical need to have an ethical AI before a globally harmonized AI. So there are the horizontal and the vertical regulation that we need to take care of. And our paper says it all with having a, let's say, sustainable, inclusive, and reliable approach for AI. Another AI paper as well, our paper in regarding to how the role of digital health in value-based healthcare that has been as well developed by our market access, and where the link, the QR code is included if you'd like to have a read on it. Finally, this is our 2024 report. Our 2025 is in process, but I thought it might be good to have this. It will give you an idea of what has happened throughout 2024. We do it each year, the latest regulatory development, also our initiatives, and definitely what we've been working on. Finally, my message that it's not the association that creates change. It's actually the collective strengths and drive of the people who believe in its mission, because it has always been about the people. No matter the goal, the vision, the journey, what makes the experience really meaningful is the people who you walk this journey with, because these people who show up, who stand up, and who are willing to connect and collaborate to make it happen. So to all of you who have been part and continue to be part of MECOMED journey, I would like to say thank you at my end of my presentation. Thanks.
Thank you, Rana, for the very strong presentation. It reflects the great efforts and the impact MECOMED has on Middle East and Africa regulatory frameworks. So our next presenter will be Dr. Khadija Sulaiman. Dr. Khadija is board member of South African Medical Device Industry Association Summit and the head of regulatory affairs for Africa at BD. Dr. Khadija is an accomplished healthcare professional with over 30 years of experience in regulatory affairs, clinical pharmacology, and medical devices industry. She is also a board. She serves as a member of the Summit board and represents the organization at key industry events. She has also worked in both local and international settings, gaining valuable experience in multicultural environments that have enhanced her regulatory insight and approach to global health standards. Please welcome Dr. Khadija on stage.
Good afternoon, everyone. I understand in the interest of time, so I'll give you a very broad overview. As the Summit board member, it's my pleasure to give you an introduction to our association and our strategic vision and our focus areas. So you will see that our vision is really to partner with our stakeholders to drive the medtech industry to new frontiers and contribute towards enabling a sustainable healthcare system. Summit is committed to enabling a sustainable, ethical, transformed, and diverse medtech industry that ensures patient access to medical technologies. We consider ourselves one of the critical voices in the South African medtech and in vitro diagnostic space. We represent about 172 companies, and which practically employ over 10,000 people. Summit celebrated its 40-year anniversary this year, and we have a growing and expanding network of members as well as key partnerships. Very importantly, to drive the message, those partnerships and collaborations are very important to drive and advocate for international best practice and regulatory convergence. We support sustainable and meaningful transformation that creates growth. Two very important initiatives in this regard is what we call the YES Youth Employment Service Program, where there's a very high unemployment rate for the youth in South Africa. And this allows us to actually build them into the medtech space. So this allows members, companies to employ these students that come out of university, give them practical learning experience, and we're creating a pipeline of future skill development individuals in the medtech space. We also have the Women in MedTech Forum. There was a tool created with Deloitte that actually tracks members' the initiatives in terms of leadership positions for women, in terms of what is women's representation, etc., in the medtech field. And that is a very useful tool that has been developed and tracked. We also try and promote access to medtech to unlock better patient outcomes. And importantly in this regard is value-based reimbursement and procurement rather than just volume-based. And we drive an ethical and accountable medtech sector through the Medical Technology Code. And we also have a hotline where transgressions of the Medical Device Code can be reported. So in terms of our regulatory priorities, We've distilled this into 3 key areas. Advocate for an implementable, sustainable, and fit-for-purpose regulatory framework. Cultivate those strategic partnerships and alliances that I've mentioned. And very importantly, it's to support our members in terms of regulatory adherence and capacity building. Because what we find is, because we have such a vast array of different types of members, they struggle with the complexity and the fast evolving nature of the regulatory environment. So this is a very key pillar, and I'll talk to it in the next slide in a little bit more detail. Okay, so just to talk about the 2 aspects of the collaboration and support. We're very highly involved on a local level with the MedTech Master Plan. That is a government initiative that is really looking at how we grow the local MedTech industry. We're also a member of the MEDIC, which is the Medical Device Development and Innovation Center. And this is really looking at supporting localized production of medical technology. We're also part of the recently launched SAPRA National Action Plan on substandard and falsified medical products, with the technical working group supporting member, and that is a pilot initiative in conjunction with the World Health Organization. We're also a supporting member of the Standards Advisory Forum of the South African Bureau of Standards. We're on the steering committee and subcommittee for corruption prevention, as well as a founding member for lobbying for recognition of the Code of Ethics by the Minister of Health. We work very closely with local and international collaboration on ISO 13485, training and awareness. We also work with the Corporate Council of Africa, the Health Systems Resilience Initiative, where we're now as Summit a advisory board member. We're together with MECOMED, we co-chair the GMTA Africa Working Group, and we're also a GHWP member. So some significant numbers. I've spoken about our membership. Most importantly, we've got in that Women Empowerment Index was the tool I was talking about, Women in MedTech. We've got 29 member companies, and we have 38 of the companies that said yes to our youth employment program, and that really talks to the collective impact that we're having in the country as a whole. We've had 25, in a year we've had 25 member forums, and I was talking to you about the capacity building of our members and the regulatory individuals in the membership. We also having very targeted workshops and trainings, so it's hands-on practical workshops rather than just information sharing through newsletters or podcasts or WhatsApp groups, etc. We've done 12 comments on draft local submissions across various regulatory standards, as well as policy papers that have been published over the last year. We're very active on LinkedIn, and from an ethical point of view, we've had 4 code hotline cases that were received and investigated. And in the last year, 22 since 2019, and that really helps keeping the industry ethical. We have had 10 code advisory opinions provided as well on different topics that the members are interested in terms of ensuring that they are compliant to the code. So this is what I was talking about in terms of the ethical leadership. Beyond our members, we also extend the certification to healthcare professionals because we consider them a very important part of the ecosystem to keep a very ethical landscape around MedTech. And finally, I'd just like to say that we would like to still maintain, as you've seen, our collaborations and our strategic partnerships. And it's really an invitation to all stakeholders, be it regulators, industry partners, healthcare professionals, civil society. And we're looking forward to shape the future together. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Khadija, for the insightful presentation. Our next speaker is Ms. Simon Short. Ms. Simon is the chairperson, local manufacturer and consultant for medical devices manufacturers of South Africa. Ms. Simon Short is a qualified industrial pharmacist with extensive experience in production and laboratory management, including quality assurance and regulatory affairs. Please welcome Ms. Simon on the stage.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Seeing that I asked most of the questions from today, now you've got my exciting presentation coming up. Are you all ready for it? Okay, so firstly, I'd like to thank Khadija for the awesome presentation from SAMED, because most of what we at MDMSA do, we follow the practices and the policies and the collaboration of SAMED. Most of our members, we were all SAMED members before we had to become independent as local manufacturing association due to the very positive support that we get from our government that enables us to do many exhibitions and promote the productions coming out of Africa. And I'm saying Africa because we do try and collaborate with other African communities as well. So my name is Simone, sometimes Simone, thanks to some of my colleagues. Rudolph Short. It's double barrel because I've been married twice. So, moving on. I don't see the presentation at the bottom. Oh, I've got to click something. There we go. Our three areas of, we're an industry association of about 30 local manufacturers, as I've said. Some of them, by the way, are also SAMED members as well. Our three main areas that from our members actually benefit from are engagement and representation. So yes, we work with many other stakeholders, including SAPRA, the Department of Trade and Industry, and we're also involved in the African Continent Free Trade Agreement initiatives, again, to build capacity within Africa for all of us as Africans. We also provide insight and intelligence, also through webinars, training, and other initiatives, as well as network and value proposition to our members as well, to try and build their knowledge and understanding of what their requirements are. So our strategy is to provide the industry again with a unified and respected voice, to engage with government regulators, and ensure that we identify solutions to where some of our issues are. So I will be digressing and to provide more insight as to really who are we as manufacturers. It's very important for us to understand that the definition of a manufacturer for a medical device sector is different to that of medicines. With us as manufacturers, we do not only fall under the definition of manufacture. As manufacturers, we either procure, manufacture, warehouse, or transport, but we may not actually do this on our own. We could very well outsource our activities, and many of you will know ISO 13485, clause 4.1.5, was specifically added in because we have these outsourced activities that we have responsibilities for. So manufacturers are the legal entity with legal obligations. No, we don't call ourselves legal manufacturers. We are the manufacturer. And the reason why we are the manufacturer is because we put our name on the product and we actually place the product on the market, following, I might add, extensive validation and verification of our product under the essential principles of safety and performance. That does not happen, or is not an obligation of any what we call outsourced supplier. So the economic operators, if you look at an international level, are the authorized rep, or the manufacturer or the distributor. The economic operators play very important roles. They've not only got regulatory obligations, but they may have certain other operational obligations. As we know, for some of our distributors, they have to follow the requirements that we as manufacturers provide when it comes to storage conditions, temperature controls. As we also know, unlike medicines, many of our devices do not have an expiry date. They may not even have a storage condition. So therefore, product compliance and labeling is very important, and I mentioned it already this morning, that some of our products do not have an instructions for use. But don't forget, we also have what they call symbolic labeling. So we don't always have the written word on our devices, we may have symbols. And for that reason, our sector is governed extensively on ISO standards, some of what we call common specifications. That there is an ISO standard under development for the essential principles of safety and performance, and we already have one for symbols. This is an international standard. How many people in the room sit on any ISO technical committees? Hands up, technical committee. Any of you? I sit on 4. Electromedical devices, thank you. Condoms, I really would encourage people to get more involved, because this is where we develop standards. We either got management system standards or we have product standards. Ladies and gentlemen, these product standards cover not only performance but safety as well. So when somebody talks about safety and performance, we also have these very distinct documents that we would follow that have been drawn up by technical committees that come to about 1,000 experts drawing these up. Okay, so regulatory considerations that are possibly a challenge for us. We are using old legislations from pharmacopoeial history and not really engaging with the modern standards. Do any of you know that the drug laws of the past, we had the initial standards written into the US Pharmacopoeia and the British Pharmacopoeia? That is where wound dressings were sitting, and plaster of Paris. That is what the medical devices were in the 1960s, 1970s. We don't use plaster of Paris anymore. We use trauma products like hips, nuts and bolts and plates, similar to the Meccano sets that some of your fathers would have played with. We don't generally, most of our kids use Lego sets now. But this is the type of product that we have when it comes to devices. We also need to align establishment licensing and product registration, move it from the medicines approach. They're not appropriate because they're not medicines. I'll give the example. We have surgical scissors, don't we? Yeah? No different to scissors that you would use at home or in dressmaking. They still need to be sharp, both of them. The difference between the two is that a pair of scissors for surgical use needs to have certain safety and performance criteria, like they must be clean. We're not too worried about the cleanliness of the scissors when we're making a garment. We've got other aspects, like I talked about threads and needles. And yet when we use them for medical purposes, we've got other certain obligations of labeling and also good manufacturing practice. You don't have this with medicines. So devices, I can promise you, are not, what's the right word? They do not go through a human system and come out through your liver and your kidney. They actually, some of them you actually dispose of in certain safety criteria, like a Sharps machine, Sharps container, or even with our electronic equipment, we have others, somebody spoke about already, about our environmental obligations as well, especially for our electrical equipment when it comes to computerization, computers and so forth, and also light bulbs. So remember, there's three pillars of legislation. They need to be unified, they need to be smart, as in artificial intelligence, and they must be impact-driven. I also want to bring the other elephant into the room. Medical devices, for years, have not had a cost to regulatory requirements, a cost of licensing, and a cost of registration. Who is going to ultimately impact when we bring this into play is us, the human being, the ones that have to pay for it. And I would really like everyone to think very carefully on how we're going to implement registration of products coming down the line. The last thing a regulator wants to see is that a product that the rest of the world can offer to their citizens, and you cannot offer it because nobody can afford it to bring it into your country. So there you can, I thought they were going to hand this out. I gave you some background information of where pharmaceutical industry is different to medical industry. The activities of the manufacturer, I have to bring that up once again. It is we, the manufacturer, that place the product on the market. We that have to have compliance to the safety and performance principles and regulatory requirements, but we also have operational obligations like your GMP, verification and validations. And it is we, the manufacturer, that can only attest to a declaration of conformity. I see that in some NRAs, they are asking for distributors to classify their products and for distributors to write a declaration of conformity. Hopefully we could get a legal opinion on that tomorrow, but I don't see how that can be done when it is the manufacturer that designs and produces the product. I just want to bring up then the word renaissance. Renaissance, which is one of the themes of these sessions, is about learning from the past. Yes, we've got a history. We know how we've done things, but we need to embrace the present and move with technology. We need to keep it simple, and we need to keep up to date. Every new beginning comes from something that happened in the past. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, so we need to be smart and impact-driven. As I said earlier on this morning, when I started off as a production pharmacist making headache tablets, we had a fax machine, and we had ladies that put their fingers on little buttons called a typewriter. We don't have that anymore, so we actually can be much smarter in what we're doing. And on that note, I'm going to say thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Simon, for your presentation. Sorry? Sure.
First, I would like to thank Somine for this nice presentation. It was very nice, and I believe that she is the voice of every industrial party here. Thank you very, very much for what you have said on all this.
Thank you.
Regarding the performance and safety, yes, the standards can guide you to the performance and safety, but when we are speaking about different companies going into the market or different industries going into the market, maybe few of them is abiding by the compliance and regulatory, or let's say the compliance of performance and safety. Other companies will not. How can we control this, or how can the regulatory body control this if we say that it's our, the industry, it's the industry responsibility to give compliance about their products, or say it's compliant with the certain standards?
That's a very good question, and this is my personal opinion. I believe that, yes, taking baby steps, starting at the beginning, getting to know your market and what products are in the market. Yes, do your establishment licensing, do your product listing, but don't overcomplicate it in the beginning. Get to know what you're working with. At least get to know who is out there. Somebody asked me the other day, how do I as a patient know that that suture that that doctor used actually has regulatory compliance? First of all, that product doesn't sit anywhere on any regulator's database. And a GMDN number is just an intended use of a device. It does not indicate whether the product, what the brand is, or where it's coming from. Link the product to the company coming in. That's the way you're going to be able to navigate vigilance. At the moment, we're working in a vacuum. We've got companies. I'm from South Africa, so I've got to be honest. I've done over, Kanye will know, a good many hundred licenses. And I can tell you that the regulator doesn't know which product's coming from which company. Am I right? So start simple, especially when you have nothing. Start by getting to know who the players are with the device license, establishment license. Get to know what products in the market and get to know who's supplying that market. That way you're going to be able to get to my point, police the market. At the moment, it's a free-for-all. Thank you.
So our next speaker is Dr. Christopher Odero. Dr. Christopher works as the Pan-Africa Regulatory Policy and Intelligence Partner at Roche Diagnostics in Africa. He is the Executive Secretary of MEDAC, Medical Technology Industry Association of Kenya, as well as a Director of Honorary Treasury at CAPI. Dr. Odero is also a member of the Africa Working Group in several regional and global industry associations, including MECOMED, MedTech Europe, and GMTA. Please welcome Dr. Odero to the stage.
So thank you so much for this opportunity. It seems I'm the last presenter, so I won't want to stand in your way with the daybreak. So I will take a very short time to go through this. Just a correction, I was the executive secretary for MEDAC until last week on Thursday, when unfortunately my term came to an end, and we have a new executive secretary at MEDAC now, so I am an emeritus. I will go straight to my presentation. So MEDAC is the industry trade association that advocates for medical devices and diagnostics and technology in Kenya. It represents importers, manufacturers, distributors of medical devices and technologies. It is pretty new. We are about 6 years old. If you've heard from the rest, they've been in existence for quite a while now. And it was formed in April of 2019, just when the COVID outbreak was catching up with us. And it was mainly as a result of the need for the trade association to represent medical devices and diagnostics in Kenya across different, and also across different settings. Previously, we were under a pharmaceutical association, that is CAPI, but then when we realized that we had different needs and our requirements were not necessarily being met within that association, there was need to form a specific association that covered the needs of MEDAC. Oops. So what we do is very simple. We champion for ethical business practices, compliance, as well as patient safety issues. We partner with healthcare professionals, regional organizations, and governments to deliver innovative patient-focused solutions as well as safeguarding our members' interests in the medtech space, as well as through safeguarding the design, production, regulation, importation, exportation, marketing, distribution, and sale of these products within the country. Our objectives are also not many. We are growing and we are adding more objectives as we learn in the market and we adopt new priorities. So mainly we are an advocacy group for fair and predictable medical device regulations. We also facilitate collaboration between industry regulators and various policymakers. We work to promote compliance, quality, and ethical business conduct. We build capacity of our members, as well as information sharing through trainings and workshops. And finally, we support innovation and local manufacturing growth of our member organizations. We have a structure that governs our operations. At the very top, we have an executive committee, which provides strategic oversight, and a lot of our initiatives are actually driven through the various association committees. We have 6 in number, ranging from one that tackles trade, regulations, and policy. We have a committee that works specifically on legal and compliance issues. We have a committee that drives government affairs and relations. We have a committee that works on supply chain priorities, publicity and marketing, and finally, education and training committee for our members. So these are the committees that drive our initiatives. A lot of the work that we do, our members are pulled into these committees and they're able to drive those priorities as required. In terms of the key achievements in the last 6 years that we've been in existence, a lot of work we've done around fighting for or reducing the impact of multiple regulations in our country. Previously, we had other government agencies and entities providing oversight for the products in our space, but we've successfully been able to lobby and have our space being regulated by our national regulatory authority, that is the Kenya Pharmacy and Poisons Board. We've also worked very hard in terms of getting VAT exemptions and 0 ratings for our products in the country as a way of facilitating trade and eliminating these tax barriers in the country. We also work very closely within the standards organization. I didn't lift my hands up, but we sit in those standard organizations, that is Kenya Bureau of Standards, and we work very closely with them in those committees to try and drive different priorities as well. One of the things that we've done recently is to contribute to the PVOC manual review in the country. Those of you who are impacted by this are already aware of the challenges you go and the barriers that you meet when you try to bring products in the country. And one of the things we've done is to try and work with the standards body to put in place a fair way in which they assess, evaluate products as they come in. Enabling, one of them is through the enabling of the use of in-house tests, reports, and also trying to reduce the trade barriers that are associated with standards and import of products. The other one is working with our regional and global, for regional and global engagements. We have a lot of collaborations that we've had with various associations at this level, including AdvaMed, MECOMed. Rana was here, though you didn't talk about MEDAC in your but you're members of MECOMed as well. SALDA, we collaborate very closely on a number of initiatives in the past year, and we've also able to align on regional medtech priorities, including regulatory harmonization on the continent. Others include engagements with our regulator. The Pharmacy and Poisons Board is here. They can attest to the fact that we have standing quarterly engagements with them where we're able to present issues, we address them collaboratively, and we have a very good working standing relationship there. We also build capacity of our members through trainings and other avenues, and also we work around policy and regulatory collaboration. Here we actively participate in framework developments with our regulators and the Ministry of Health. We also collaborate, we collaborated very actively in the MDRC project that Rana talked about previously. In terms of our strategic initiatives, a lot of these are around advocacy and policy reforms. We also work around capacity building programs. We work around regulatory collaborations, promotion of local innovations, as well as regional and global engagements. This is a list of our members. As you can see, it's a mix of both multinational organizations. We also have local companies. We also have small and medium enterprises amongst our memberships. And then these are our partners. We are happy to collaborate with diverse partnerships, ranging from CAPI, which is specifically an association for pharmaceuticals in the country. In Kenya, we have a regulator there, AdvaMed. I've talked about all this, including the AMDF on the continental level. And that's our contact information. If you'd like to reach out to us to learn more about what you do, to collaborate, you can take those details and we're able to support you and work with you through the partnerships. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Christopher, for the insightful presentation. Please, I will ask the speakers to join on the panel. It will be a short panel. And I would like to remind the audience with the great opportunity you will have after this session to sit for the roundtable discussion with the regulators who are still with us in the room, so you can ask questions that you have or touch base on any of the updates that has been shared today. So we will start our panel today with a question, and my first question is to Rana. So Rana, given that MECOMED is covering a very big region for Middle East and Africa, and you have shared a lot of collaboration with regulatory bodies. So I would ask you, what are the key elements of a successful partnership and sustainable model between an industry association and a regulatory body?
Thank you, Fatma, for the question. I believe this is a very important point to have this continuous, successful, and sustainable relationship. I believe some of the key elements I'd like to shed some light on here is trust, and it has been mentioned in the morning session. So it's important to have credibility and ongoing and communication and collaboration with the authority. It has to be really in a proactive manner, not always in a reactive or only to raise challenges, but also to explore opportunities. So it's a two-way communication that has to be there. Just an example for US FDA, they do, let's say, meetings with the manufacturers early on to introduce the novel technologies. So in order to set the expectations properly. So trust is really important. And then I would say transparency, to have the expectations in terms of decision-making, in terms of regulatory documentation. Like the two partners need to look at each other as partners, not opponents. And we are not in a firefighting mode. We are the gate protectors. So this is how we look at. And this is very important because I believe the third and most important is that we share the same purpose. So it's a shared objective in order to have innovation, access the patient, and to achieve regulatory excellence. And if we have a super safe, super effective medical device that is not reaching the patient on time, then we're nothing closer to regulatory excellence. So this is very important to work together towards this type of relationship between authority, because I believe if we have this relationship, even when we agree to disagree, or even, let's say, the toughest discussion, can become really constructive dialogue for the future. So, this is really important, and to work hand in hand, to walk hand in hand in the journey. And it's not only about success stories. Sometimes we can learn from the pitfalls that happens throughout the journey. So it's important to continue, walk the talk, and go together, embrace the journey hand in hand as partners towards patient safety.
Thank you, Rana. I believe that the key word you said is the shared goal or purpose, which is our patient. So it will be the key for the mutual trust and respect and transparency. Thank you. My next question is for Dr. Christopher. Beyond advocacy, what is MEDAC's most impactful strategy for capacity building? And in here, I will use Rana's word during the presentation, capacity maintenance. So for building knowledge and sharing across the region, particularly concerning the adoption of new regulatory standards, the global standards.
Yeah, so with regards to the work that MEDAC has done, beyond advocacy, I think there is quite a bit more that can be discussed in terms of convening power. So I think MEDAC has, and other similar associations, they have a role in terms of convening the stakeholders to address the challenges and the priorities that the industry is facing jointly or collaboratively with the regulators. So there is potential there to identify from an industry perspective, the priority topics that need to be addressed, bring in the experts that are needed. I mean, Simone here talked about the industry being the experts. They know the products they're putting out there. They know the claims. They own the product, the claims on those products. So they can bring in the right experts in the room to help engage across the full value chain and also for impact for these stakeholders. And I mean, there are quite others that I can mention in terms of industry playing a role for regulatory intelligence and providing updates. There's issues around consultations with these authorities and other trade associations. There are issues around marketing, research, and insights, or providing updates as might be required, resource mobilization, as well as sharing best practices. So it's not always just advocacy, an advocacy role that industry plays, but it's quite diverse, and there's quite a lot of topics that the industry brings on the table and can lead and drive with the authorities.
Yeah, thank you so much for bringing these diversity topics that the trade association play part in. So my next question would be for Dr. Khadija. How do you envision Summit influencing and aligning with broader continental initiatives and regional regulatory convergence efforts? You have shared a lot of collaboration efforts with different regulatory bodies and NRAs. So would you please shed some light on this?
Yes, definitely. We really like to ensure that we have a seat at the table wherever possible. And being here is one of them. Secondly, we co-chair the GMTA Africa Working Group with MECOMED. I think one of the key things that we did this year was the proposal paper to the Africa Medical Device Forum for an industry collaboration and partnership with the AMDF. So we've started that conversation as well. When the US, we were always also part of the medical device regulatory convergence efforts. That was with the US aid and ANFAMED. We ensured that we were at those conversations in different parts of Africa, basically, as well. The other parts that we're working with the Corporate Council of Africa, USTDA, when they had the same harmonization, convergence workshops, Summit was a critical part of that. Our members showcased, they presented, showcased. So those are the different ways that continentally, we are wanting to engage with different partners. Beyond that, like we said, we collaborate with we are a member of the GHWP. We bring those international conversations back into our benchmarking of the South Africa regulatory framework. We also, like I mentioned in my presentation, this is where we give our members the information about what is current, what is best practice, what is the international standards that we're aspiring to. And that's the way we can capacity build as well. And by also we also then take the South Africa voice into these discussions as SAMED, to make sure that we then are able to have these collective conversations, identify common pain points and challenges, and then be more solutions focused going forward with the broader medtech industry across the continent.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Khadija. My question now, though, Ms. Simon, what practical steps and opportunities exist in MDMSA to foster direct, successful cross-border collaboration among African local manufacturers to achieve economies of scale and shared technical expertise?
Okay, thank you for the question. We as MDMSA, as I said earlier on, are involved in many exhibitions and conferences. And the reason for this is to unify the manufacturers within Africa. For us as manufacturers, we need the volume, the African volume, to be able to compete with the international market. Volume is what affects price. And for us to be able to afford things like the regulatory costs, but also be able to get the cost to market, we need volumes. And to do this, the master plan that we've been very involved with is not only the health products master plan for South Africa. We are looking at how we can collaborate with the African manufacturers and the African markets to be able to enable the localization of goods. So we as MDMSA are playing a significant role there and a focused role there. Thank you.
Thank you for your insights. So I would like to close with one question that for a few words from each of you. So we have been speaking a lot about collaboration and harmonization initiatives across the continent. So if you were to bring all African trade associations to work together towards a harmonization initiative, what would be your single top priority to include in this unified initiative to ensure the greatest impact on industry growth and patient access? Rona?
Yeah, I would say harmonization and dance to the tempo that Khani mentioned at the beginning of the session. So we need to all dance together to the same rhythm to make it happen. We cannot do it alone. We need to do it together.
Yes. Dr. Odeiro?
Yeah, I think I'll also add on the same. If we have to work together, then we must have harmonized approaches, systems, and objectives. So it would really be important for harmonization to be driven across all our countries and through all our processes.
Thank you. Dr. Khadija?
I think for me it would be operationalizing reliance. How can we practically do that? Working together with the regulator.
Thank you. It's a very valid question.
Did you talk about the RPS? Is that what the document, what were you talking about?
Operationalizing.
I think for us, if we're going to talk about reliance and harmonization, we need to be active about it. In other words, adopt the IMDRF guidelines, have a single approach to regulations. Because for us as a manufacturer, there is only one technical file. It's the one that comes from the manufacturer. And that also includes, by the way, the quality management system and GMP and so forth, because that's where it all originates from. And to have divergent administrative practices, forms, and approaches is very, it actually then can cause probably more non-conformances than good practices. So I would encourage the regulators at the African Medical Device Forum to really think very clearly about their roadmap on what we're going to follow, because ultimately we need to be patient-centric. We need to be centric to ourselves as humans, our friends, our family, our colleagues. We are the ones that are needing these products, and ultimately we don't want to have regulatory practices become a barrier for accessibility. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Simon. Thank you all. I would like to thank all the panelists and the audience for being present until that late in the day. Thank you for staying with us. What we have heard now reinforces the critical role of trade associations across Africa, not only as advocates, but as strategic partner in shaping the regulatory framework across Africa. So let's carry this momentum into tomorrow and beyond, and wish you all a successful continuation for the summit.